Tonight, when your throat starts to hurt, you already know what to do. You open your phone, you type the symptom into a search bar, and in seconds, 100 answers appear. You take a pill, you boil water for tea, and you trust that some unseen system has already solved this problem for you long before you ever felt sick. But the real answer to how humans heal themselves is far stranger than a search engine. To understand it, you have to go back roughly 1,000 years to a longhouse with no light bulbs, no antibiotics, and no internet, and watch what happened the moment a Viking got sick. There was no hospital down the road, there was no pharmacy on the corner, there was only the people around you, the plants growing outside your door, and a deep, almost desperate belief that illness was never just illness. Why would anyone believe that? Because in the Viking world, sickness rarely had a single cause. It had a body, yes, but it also had a story, and someone had to read that story correctly or you might not survive it. Picture a farmstead in 9th century Scandinavia. Someone wakes with a fever, their skin is pale, their stomach twists, and a cough rattles through the cold morning air. The first response isn't panic, it's diagnosis, of a kind that would look almost unrecognizable to you today. Was this bad blood, an angry spirit, a curse from a rival farm, or simply rotten luck? Someone in that household had to decide, and fast, because the wrong guess could cost a life. That someone was often an older woman, sometimes called a vulva in the old Norse sources, a healer and seer rolled into a single role. She didn't separate medicine from magic the way you do today. To her, they were the same toolbox used for the same job. She might chant low words over the body. She might burn dried herbs in the smoke of the hearth fire. She might press a poultice of crushed yarrow onto an open wound. Because yarrow genuinely slows bleeding and resists infection, something modern chemistry would only confirm 1,000 years later. Did she know why it worked? No. She only knew that it had worked before, on someone else, in some other winter, and that was enough reason to try it again. This is where the deep dive gets stranger than most people expect. Archaeologists have spent decades trying to reconstruct exactly what illnesses the Vikings actually carried, and the picture that comes back is brutal. Bioarchaeologist Caroline Arsini, studying skeletal remains across Viking-age Scandinavia, found signs consistent with tuberculosis etched directly into ancient bone. Lungs you can no longer see still leave fingerprints centuries later on the skeleton that once held them. Tuberculosis wasn't rare. It was a constant, quiet companion, spreading easily through smoky, crowded longhouses where families and livestock often slept under the very same roof for warmth. And it wasn't only the lungs. Excavations at Viking-age York, examined in part by archaeoentomologist Eva Panagiotokopoulou, uncovered ancient latrines preserved in waterlogged soil beneath the modern city. What she found inside them were thousands of parasite eggs, whipworm, roundworm, evidence that nearly everyone, rich or poor, farmer or jarl, was quietly carrying something inside their body that you would treat as a medical emergency today. Imagine living your entire life with that and simply calling it normal, calling it human. So if disease was everywhere, how did anyone survive long enough to raid, to farm, to raise the next generation at all? The answer is that Viking-age medicine wasn't useless, it was unevenly brilliant. Some remedies worked by pure accident, others worked because of genuine trial and error, repeated and refined across hundreds of years. Honey smeared onto open wounds has real antibacterial properties. Garlic, eaten or crushed onto skin, has measurable antimicrobial effects too. None of this was understood through germ theory, because germ theory didn't exist yet, not for another 1,000 years. It was understood through attention. Try it. Watch what happens to the wound. Remember what worked. Pass it down to your children before you die.